Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Dale, and this is the Biblical Linguist. So let me start out by explaining a little bit about what I intend to do with this channel. Being a language student myself, my goal is to take us through the New Testament in the closest approximation of the original Koine Greek that we have, and I want to translate it little bit by little bit, and I want to do this over the course of many videos as it takes. But I'm learning Koine Greek. I am no expert, but I have been studying for about 8 months now. I have the script pretty much down. I have a good vocabulary built up. I'm studying both the biblical Koine Greek as well as modern Greek, so I'm trying to expand my knowledge in a number of ways. But if these videos are successful, which I hope and pray that they are, then I'm going to comb all the way through, do the whole New Testament. Want to translate it line by line. I'm going to try to keep these videos kind of short and kind of help viewers and listeners to gradually become fluent and able to read the biblical Koine Greek yourself. So if that is something that interests you, which I don't anticipate large swaths of the population would be interested in something like this, it's quite a hefty endeavor. But if you want to come with me on this journey, then like and subscribe to this channel, because I plan to dedicate a large portion of my life to this. A little bit about the inspiration that got me started. Wes Huff from Apologetics Canada has been all over the internet recently, and he inspired me to start learning Koine Greek. The problem was there aren't that many channels out there specializing in doing these types of translations. And so I decided I'm just going to pick up the mantle and I'm going to do my best. Like I said, my qualifications are I don't have any. I just want to bring the original languages of the Gospels to an audience so that hopefully it becomes more mainstreamed. Hopefully it's not so alien. And I'm hoping that with Wes Huff's work, I could somehow, even if in a minor way, help contribute to this subject matter. So without further ado, I'm going to start with Matthew here. And before I read, I handwrite my translations. This is from the Logos app. This is from the Scrivener Greek New Testament. I believe it was written in the late 1800s. Again, have patience with me. I am new at this. Okay, so this is the Evangelion to Kata Matthaion. Evangelion to Kata Matthaion. So Evangelion means Gospels. It means good news. The EU in front of a word in Greek denotes goodness. So think of like the name Eugene that we have in English. Eugene stems from Greek. It basically means well born. Eugene, eu meaning good, gene meaning birthed. Or something of that nature. But there's many examples out there. Okay, so let's officially start line 1. Biblos Geneseus Jesu Christu io David io Abram. So again, Biblos Geneseus Jesu Christu io David io Abram. So this is the book of Genesis of Jesus Christ, son of David, son of Abraham. I actually was not going to start with this chapter, but I realized it's probably important. The reason this chapter I didn't want to start with it is because it's kind of boring. Basically the same verse repeated over and over and over again. This is basically the genealogy story, tracing Jesus' genealogy over time. So particularly the Gospels of Matthew and Luke begin with these genealogies to establish Jesus' identity and fulfill the Jewish expectations of the coming Messiah. In Jewish tradition, lineage was absolutely crucial for validating claims of kingship. These genealogies trace Jesus' descent from Abraham and David. And so this is why this is important. This is why I didn't want to gloss over it, even though this episode, my first episode, is going to get kind of repetitive. But bear with us because it's very important to the storyline. So let's start. Abraham egenese ton Isaac. Isaac the egenese ton Jacob. Jacob the egenese ton Judan. Kai tous adelphus avtu. So what does this mean? Abraham is Abraham. Egenese, it means begat. Or in other words, Abraham egenese ton Isaac means Abraham begat the Isaac. The words for the in Greek are There's a lot of them and they're very difficult. But as we go through these first 11 verses, it'll kind of start to make sense. I'm approaching all this from my perspective as a student of language. I am not going to give alphabet lessons on this channel. I believe that the Greek script is close enough to the English that just by watching the phrases, reading along as I pronounce them, you'll pick them up. If you need the alphabet, tons of resources. Heck, just Google it. Google will give you the list of the letters. I want to hit the text and I want to just get people familiarized with the text, start translating. I don't want to start with Greek 101 and learn the colors and learn the numbers. My focus is just to get the text out there, just to get the translations out there so that you can read it yourself. My approach has always been familiarization first and foremost. Just start getting these words going through your head. Just hear them, become familiar with them. Don't worry so much about the particulars of the grammar and all these different cases and aorist and all this other stuff. It gets really daunting really quick. So I want to make this simple, guys. I just want to make this simple, enjoyable, and I don't want these videos to last too long, but obviously it's going to be probably one of the longest videos I do for a while. But I just need to get through this first portion. Okay, so Abram agenese ton Isaac. Abraham begat Isaac. Literally, it means Abraham begat the Isaac. Ton is the in this case. Isaac the agenese ton Jacob. The here, we wouldn't really translate it, but if I had to translate it, I would translate it as then. Isaac the agenese ton Jacob. Isaac then begat the Jacob, Jacob. Jacob is Jacob. Jacob the agenese ton Judan kai tous adelphus avtu. So Jacob then begat Judan, Judas. It's Judan because of the case. It would normally have an S at the end, but in this case, he begat Judan. Accusative is the person receiving the action. So that's why ton ends in an N and Judan also ends in an N. The Judas. Kai tous adelphus avtu. Kai means and. Tous, plural of the, masculine I guess, tous. Adelphus, brothers, avtu. Avtu, this is a word that really throws me for a loop. It means, in this case, his, but they use it so much that it doesn't just mean his. It has a lot of meanings. And I'm still trying to figure out all the meanings. In fact, I saw a YouTube video where avtu, it's like a 30-minute long video just explaining all the uses for it. It's very strange. We don't have an equivalent in English. So, next line. Judas the agenese ton Phares kai ton Zara ectis Thamar. So Judas then begat Phares kai and ton the Zara ectis Thamar. Ek means from, tis the Thamar. Tis is feminine, the singular, and Thamar is, I believe, Tamar in English. So Judas then begat Phares and Zara, ek from Thamar. So in other words, Judas and Thamar together begat Phares and Zara. Phares the agenese ton Esrom. Esrom is, you could probably pronounce it Hesrom as well, but Esrom is Hezron, the name Hezron. Esrom the agenese ton Aram. Esrom then begat Aram. Aram the agenese ton Aminadab. So Aram then begat Aminadab. Aminadab the agenese ton Nason. Aminadab then begat Nashon. Nashon is obviously a Hebrew name. Nashon the agenese ton Salmon. So Nashon then begat Solomon. Salmon the agenese ton Booz ectis Rachab. So here we go again with that translation. So Salmon the agenese, Salmon then begat ton Boaz, the Boaz, ectis from the Rachab. So Salmon begat Boaz via Rahab. Rahab would have been the wife, or Boaz's mother in this case. Boaz the agenese ton Obed ectis Ruth. So Boaz then begat Obed through Ruth. Tis from the Ruth. This is just how Greek words things. It's very alien to the way we think of things in English, right? That's why these translations, when you're reading them, even in English, they seem kind of awkward, right? Obed the agenese ton Yese. So Obed then begat Jesse. Yese. Yese the agenese ton David ton Basileia. So Jesse then begat David, the king, Basileia. Now, I think this word Basileia is very interesting because this is where we get the word vassal from. Think of like a vassal state, a kingdom, right? A vassal is similar to a king. It's like a leader, right? So basileia means king. And we do have remnants of that in English, so it should be easy enough to remember. The word agenese also is really interesting because this is where we get our word for Genesis and genealogy. So begat in Greek, the agenese construction, again, the word sounds foreign, but we have it everywhere in English. That's one thing that's really cool. One thing about studying the Greek too is that if you're a philologist, i.e. a lover of words, word comparison, you're going to have so many epiphanies going through this. It's unreal. So, David de ho Basileus agenese ton Solomonta ectis tu oriu. So this is a bit of a longer one. David, then David the, so in other words, then David the king, David the ho Basileus, ho in this case means the, Basileus, king, agenese ton Solomonta. Agenese begat Solomon. Solomonta, this is going to be, I believe, in the accusative case. Solomon is receiving the birthing, and so Solomonta takes this rendition with the onta at the end instead of just being rendered as Solomon. It's, in this case, Solomonta. Ectis oriu, tis tu oriu. So through Oriah. Oriah would have been the queen, his wife. So here we see Solomon in line 7. Solomon is now rendered in its nominative case, its most normal case, Solomon the agenese ton Roboam. Solomon the agenese ton Roboam. Solomon then begat Rehoboam. That's a hard word to pronounce in English. I prefer the Greek. Roboam, Rehoboam. Roboam the agenese ton Abia. So Rehoboam then begat Abijah, or Abijah, however it's pronounced in English. Abijah the agenese ton Asa. So Abijah then begat Asaph. Asa in Greek, spelled with the alpha, sigma, alpha. It's got a little bit of an accent mark there. Asa. So in other words, it'll be almost like a glottal stop, but they're trying to mimic the word Asaph. So it's difficult from the perspective of the Greek speaker to pronounce the Hebrew words, which is why you see instead of Abraham, they say Abram, because in Greek they don't like to put an H in the middle of a word in between two vowels, I guess. So this is just interesting. I also speak quite a bit of Spanish, and I understand that, certain linguistic constructions are difficult for them to pronounce, and so they pronounce it a different way. And this goes with all language, from language to language. You'll see this, but in other words, in Spanish, to say Asaph, they probably wouldn't like to pronounce that word with the F at the end, so they'd probably render it Asa. Like my name, Dale. Spanish speakers can't really say my name, Dale, so they say Del. And in Italian, they also don't like to say the name Dale, so they'll say Deal. So you'll see this across languages. This is a very common phonology to follow. Asa the agenese ton Josaphat. So Asaph then begat Josaphat. Josaphat the agenese ton Joram, which is Joram. So Josaphat then begat Joram. Joram the agenese ton Ozian. So Joram then begat Uzziah. Ozian. Ozias the agenese ton Joatham, which is Jotham. Again, in the Greek, they don't like to pronounce the J at the beginning of a name. So instead of, we see this shift between J's and I's constantly throughout the linguistic paradigm, right? Especially as we're dealing with Romance languages, which Greek is a Hellenistic language, but I'm finding a lot of pronunciation similarities between the Romance languages and the Greek. So in other words, it's jarring for a Spanish speaker to pronounce the word Jotham. It's very strange phonology to them. So Jotham is how they'd be more comfortable pronouncing that name. So Ozias the agenese ton Jotham. Ozias then begat Jotham. Jotham the agenese ton Achaz. So Jotham then begat Ahaz. Achaz in Greek could be rendered as a K sound, but also more commonly I hear it as a ch or a ch. So Acham, Achaz. Achaz the agenese tu Ezekian, which is Hezekias, Ezekian. So Ahaz then begat Hezekias. Okay, last two verses. Ezekias the agenese ton Manasseh. So Hezekiah then begat Manasseh. Manasseh the agenese ton Amon. So Manasseh then begat Amos. And again, because Amon is in the accusative case, it's taking that N at the so ton Amon. And the of course rhymes with the name. Amon the egenese ton Usian, which is Josiah, which in the nominative case will be Usias, but in this case, Amon de egenese ton Usian, Josiah is receiving the birthing, therefore it is rendered Usian. Usias de egenese ton Jechonian, which is Jeconiah. So Usias, Josiah, de egenese, then begat ton Jechonian, the Jeconia. Kai tus adelphus aftu epi tis metoi kesias Babylonos. Okay, finally, we have kind of a unique construction here. So let's walk through this. So Josiah then begat Jeconia. Kai tus adelphus aftu epi tis metoi kesias Babylonos. Kai means and, tus adelphus, the brothers, and the brothers aftu, of him. Aftu, again, very strange word, but we have it in English. This is where we get the word auto from. And you could kind of think of it like automatic. The way that it functions is sort of a self-functioning marker by itself. I didn't explain that well, but and the brothers of him, of tu, adelphus of tu, epi means above, typically. I mean, it's conceptual epi. So there's a different way we could render the translation, but epi means above or on top. Tis metoi kesias, the deportation of Babylon. So Josiah then begat Jeconia. Josiah then begat Jeconia. And this is how I would translate this. I might be wrong. And his brothers during the departure of Babylon, during the time of leaving Babylon. So not necessarily deportation, but in other words, this word epi means on top of or above. But in this case, I would translate it as during, right? Just within the context of the sentence. You just kind of have to piece these clues together. Because if you were to translate it, and the brothers of him, upon the deportation or the exodus from Babylon, upon doesn't really make sense. For me, I'd render that as during. Okay, so, and his brothers during the time of the Babylon exodus. That's how I'd put it all together. So anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. We'll pick up on Matthew verse 12 in the next one, and we'll try to finish out the first chapter from there. The big key takeaway from this one that I hope you learned was how to recognize the word begat. That's the big word in this whole lesson here. I'm going to condense these translation sessions into hopefully 2 or 3 big important takeaways, but in today's lesson it's agenese, which is begat, and that's the one you really want to commit to memory here. I'm not going to pack my videos full of information. I want them to be digestible sound bites, and I'm learning too, right? I have a lot of difficulty reading this, as you could probably see as I'm going through this. But it's important if you really want to master the Greek. And if anybody has hints or tips or tricks or resources for me to better this content, please, I'm all ears. I am in uncharted waters right now. So anyways, with that, I'll shut it down. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see y'all in the next one.